RPG shooter Borderlands, it places similar emphasis on looting and stat-based damage. If you liked Far Cry's jungle setting and battered vehicles, it had both. And crucially, if you liked Left 4 Dead 2's 4-player zombie mashing, it had the same co-op dynamic and satisfying melee weaponry, only stretched across a large open world. Plus, I know the cycle of pop culture is about to tick over to pirates, but zombies are still cool, right? So when Dead Island Riptide was announced as a more polished, more refined semi-sequel, we were pretty excited. With the original, the potential was there, it was just the execution that was lacking. So having now played it for ourselves, we're in a better position to judge whether Riptide has solved that problem. Essentially it's Dead Island again, but more and better. The setting is a new island in the same archipelago as Banoi, but it's a slightly different beast. For a start, substantial portions of the place are flooded and filled with new enemies called drowners, which appear to be lifeless corpses until they spring up and attempt to chew your face off. It's not all wading through swamps though, as this gameplay footage shows. The city of Henderson is supposed to be an idyllic getaway for the fabulously wealthy, as creative producer Alex Chaplansky explained.
Dead Island was, but the island of Banoi was kind of this hedonistic paradise. You had this big Royal Palms resort where people were, going crazy and having big parties and stuff like that. You had the city of Moresby that was kind of neglected by a lot of those partygoers and, had kind of fallen into disrepair, and it was muddy and gritty, dark colors on everything. And when we went about creating Henderson, we wanted to kind of create a city that was almost a little bit of this like Mediterranean-inspired paradise for the, ultra-wealthy traveling around the world in their yachts and stuff like that. So it's got a whole different aesthetic that, again, just further pushes that contrast of beauty and destruction. At the same time, it's got a lot of gameplay differences too. It's a place where there are multiple vertical layers to play with. So you're always going to have a choice of really diving down into the depths and the flooded dark areas at the bottom where there are more zombies. There's also going to be more loot that people dropped. Or you can go kind of up above, climb up some ladders, and get to this kind of the eerie calm of the city up above.
One of the major frustrations of the original game was that while melee combat was a lot of fun, firearms were really badly implemented. Perna, the canonical firearms expert, couldn't even wield a handgun for the first half of the game. In Riptide there are more firearms and ammunition, and they will be available for use earlier in the game as well. If you want to play the game as an FPS, it's going to be a lot more fun this time. There's a new character too in the shape of John Morgan, a combat expert from the Australian Navy, who's the chap running around in the orange t-shirt here. He's pretty handy with the new Wolverine-style feral claws, but our main revelation was one of Morgan's new abilities, something we can only describe as game-breakingly awesome, the run and kick, which sends zombies ragdolling about 30 feet.
John Morgan, his speciality seems to be kicking things for miles. Why would you play as anyone else?
That's a good question. I think one of the cool things that we've added actually now is this kind of ability to customize which loadout your character is going to have at the beginning of a game. So you may be John and you may specialize in combat and be the kicking master. You may also pick a character like Perna and kind of say actually I want to be the person who finds all the loot, does all the survival, and now you have an option for that of saying I want to be the person who specializes in that rather than just pure combat. So there are going to be a lot of cool skills that the other characters have now. Again, they're really great additional stuff. But we've done things like revamping firearms gameplay, for example, to now make that a more viable route through the game as a whole. So there definitely is going to be a lot to love. Firearms, explosives, and a lot of cool new melee weapon mods as well.
So with a huge new environment, new character, new weapons, new vehicles, new weather effects, and a new story, why isn't this just called Dead Island 2?
Okay, so this is the million-dollar question, right? No, I think that the important thing to remember is that we had a lot of life left in the Dead Island experience as we know it. We didn't want to start kind of rethinking the whole approach and saying, okay, well, how can we sort of overhaul the whole thing? We said, this is the continuation of the story of the first game. We're seeing what happens next. So we didn't want to go the route of saying, okay, this is the sequel. At the same time, we wanted to make it clear to everybody it's not an expansion or DLC. This is a big experience. It's, comparable in size to the original in terms of the, just amount of content we've got and the amount of stuff to see. So we've done a whole new island, as you said, a whole new character, and it's a whole new game.
From what I played, it feels like they could have gotten away with slapping a 2 on it. Either way, we're certainly looking forward to getting our hands on the finished article, which is out on April 23rd in the US and April 26th everywhere else. See you next time on Outside Xbox.